Multiplying decimals is what we're going to talk about today. Now, some things you need to know about multiplying decimals is that you do not need to line up the decimals. It only causes you more work when you do. So, best thing to do is to pretend that all decimals are whole numbers until the very end. Then you can worry about what to do with the decimals. So, how do we multiply? We're going to talk about the two different methods. The first one is standard method, and in the standard method, you multiply the ones place by each place on the top. So we would start with 9 times 5, 9 times 0, and 9 times 4. And we would put our answers here. Then we would go to our tens place, which is the 5. And we would go 5 times 5, 5 times 0, and 5 times 4. But we can't put them just straight down. We have to put a 0 here to hold that ones place. So all of our answers for 5 times 5, 5 times 0, and 5 times 4 would go to the left of that 0. Once we've done that, we then have our two sets of numbers that we add to get this. And that would be the answer to our multiplication problem. The next method is called the lattice method. In the lattice method, if we look at our problem, we have 38 and 42. There are 2 digits in each one of those numbers. So step 1 would be to make a window that is 2 boxes by 2 boxes. So 2 boxes down and 2 boxes across would give us our window. The next thing we would do is draw diagonal lines. So we'd start at the top right and work our way to the bottom left of all of our boxes. And it creates alleys to go through. The third thing we would do is then multiply like we would on a multiplication chart. The 10 digit goes on top and the ones digit will go on the bottom of our diagonal lines. So we would start here and do 8 times 4, which is 32. 10's digit on top, ones digit on bottom. Then we would do 3 times 4, which is 12. 10's on top, ones on bottom. And then we do the same thing at the bottom. 8 times 2, 16. 3 times 2 is 6. And put a 0 in there to hold that spot. The next thing you do, step 4, is you add following those diagonal lines. So we start at the right. We have a 6, there's nothing to add to it, so our answer is 6. Then we go here, and we have 2 times 1 times 6. Or 2 plus 1 plus 6. So 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 6 is 9. And then we go to the next alley. We have 3 plus 2 plus 0. 3 plus 2 plus 0 is 5. And then we go to our next one, which is just 1. So the answer is 1. Then, step 5, our answer is already given to us along the outside. It's 1, 5, 9, 6. And you write those in order, 1, 5, 9, 6. And that is the answer to your problem. So, now you try. Work it out both ways. Okay, what if there's a decimal? Okay, now we're going to take those two methods of multiplying and now we're going to add the decimal into it. So we're going to multiply the numbers using one of the previous methods. When we're done, we're going to count all the digits to the right or behind the decimal point. Then we're going to move the decimal point that many spaces from the right to the left in your answer. So let's look at some examples. We have 4 and 5 hundredths times 5 and 9 tenths. So I've walked through the problem and done my multiplication. We did 9 times 5, 9 times 0, 9 times 4 to get this. Then I put my 0 down here to hold that place, and then did 5 times 5, 5 times 0, 5 times 4 to get this answer. Then I take both of those numbers and I add them together to get this. Okay? So now is where we worry about the decimals. If I look in my problem, I have 2 decimal places here and 1 decimal place here. 2 plus 1 is a total of 3 places behind the decimal. So I am now going to move the decimal from the right 3 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3. My decimal point would go behind the 3, which makes my answer 23 and 895 thousandths. Now, it's slightly different when you're multiplying times 10, 100, or 1,000. There are 2 different ways you can do it when you are multiplying times these. The first method is if we had 5 and 7/10 times 1,000, we would move our 1,000 over to where the ones digit was underneath the 7. This would allow for us to take these zeros and just drop them straight down. Then we can multiply like a 2-digit times 1, 1 times 7, and 1 times 5. Then, just like before, we count our decimal places, and we have 1 decimal place here, so we would move our decimal 1 place in our answer, so that would give us 5,700. The second method is just to move the decimal to the right according to how many zeros there are. So, if we have 1,000, we can look and see there are 3 zeros. So, I can take and move our decimal point from here over 3 places to get the same answer of 5,700. So, now let's do some practice. Let's multiply 73 hundredths times 5.